Introduction into the 5-10-5, also known as the Pro Agility. This is a test that a lot of teams, a lot of sports teams and coaches are using to identify agility. Where I think it does identify agility, I think it really gives us a better sense of how well the person understands their body and how to maximize their ability to accelerate, decelerate, and then change direction. I use this drill twofold. It's an evaluation purely on time, and it's also an evaluation on quality of movement. As you're going to see today, I'll talk to you about the steps and the teaching progressions that I implement to my athletes, but I'll also show you common faults so you have a better idea of recognizing these faults and then correcting these faults. Again, I love this test for a couple reasons. One, it's kind of the gold standard test right now when you look at the NFL and some other organizations who are using it to identify agility measures. But also, this is a test that high schools, colleges have picked up a ton and have used with their athletes, from conditioning tools to testing parameters. When a test like this has been done often, it should really give me a sense of how well the athlete understands how to move. If this was a novel drill that they had never done before, I would expect to see significant movement faults. However, since this is a closed drill, we know the start and we know the stop, and as I said, many coaches are implementing this drill across the country. These athletes have seen it time and time again. So again, I can pick up on their true athleticism and maybe how they've gotten away with just sheer effort instead of running the drill correctly. Introduction to the 5-10-5. We're going to show a gross overview of the drill right now. The athlete's going to start into a 3-point stance. The athlete's going to accelerate to the first line, touch with the right hand, accelerate to the second line 10 yards away, touch, and finish through. This is how the drill should be performed. You should have one hand touching. If the athlete starts with the right hand on the ground, that means they go to their right first. Again, a lot of times you'll see different combines and different testing days where they don't put a precedence. But if we're preparing someone for the NFL combine, and I'd like to make the test as similar to that as possible, if you have the right hand down, you will go to the right first. Now, you saw the drill. Now we're going to break into our working progressions on how we set this drill up. Now we're going to get into the technical application of this drill. The first 5 is 2 quick crossover steps. Most athletes will start with their hand down, sprint out of the line. I like crossover steps because that only gives me 90 degrees of deceleration position. I don't have to change my body from a full 180 to come back the other direction. I always want to think on this drill, once I stop, what's the quickest and easiest way for me to get out of that touch to accelerate to my next line? In the start position, we start with the right hand down, and we want to bias a little bit more weight to the outside leg. So he shifts a little bit over, but he's really biasing the inside edge of the left foot, and he's going to bias the outside edge of the right foot. From here, what I want him to think about is explode out by pushing off both feet as he attacks for that first line. Go. As you can see, what is critical on this drill is where his weight distribution is. He wants to make sure that he has good edges of his weight distribution into the right foot on the inside edge, and then he's got more of his weight shifted into the left leg. If we were to draw a plumb line down based on where his weight should be, it would be straight down, biased toward the inside leg. This gives him better leverage to attack out of this touch to accelerate down to the second line. Common faults on this drill. A coach will tell an athlete not to get too close to the line and just reach for it. This is a problem, as you can see, as it shifts our center of mass over to the outside leg. We, in theory, maybe we're getting to the line quicker, but we're in a disadvantaged position to be able to get out and re-accelerate. Again, his weight is more biased now toward the outside leg. This is a bad position to be in because he has no leverage, or he has very poor leverage to accelerate back out of position. The second 10 of the drill, I used to break down into specific parts. But what I was noticing is with too much information for the athletes to actually comprehend and to really count their steps and decide how they should cast the leg and set up for that position. So now simply what I do is I put the athletes in a good acceleration-based position coming out of their first touch, and I tell them to attack 10 yards as though they're accelerating out of the 40. However, prepare for the line about 1 yard out. So as they start to work toward that 10-yard marker, start to turn and settle the hips into your touch. This will allow the athlete to be in a good weight distribution position, but to accelerate out. The second 10 of the drill, the athlete starts in a good decelerated position with a weight bias to the inside leg. He's going to attack through 10 yards of acceleration, but he's going to prepare at about 9 yards out to spin, turn, touch, and go. If your athletes are struggling with the crossover step or the crossover movement, we have some regression type drills that we implement with our athletes. It's a crossover step, 2 crossover stick, 2 crossover stick. This teaches the athlete really how to dive those edges into the ground of the feet. Awesome. The tall crossover drill is really to teach the athletes the coordination of the crossover movement, but then the weight distribution that they need to have when they get to their line to touch. Again, as you can see, I wasn't concerned with the distance that my athlete covered. I was more concerned with the rhythm and the tempo of the step, and then the weight distribution on the deceleration. So the athlete is set up in their position. Key points here: making sure that we've got the weight biased to the inside leg. He's got good inside edge positioning of the back foot, and now he's going to drive out in acceleration. Common faults on this drill: too much weight biased to the outside leg. Again, if he reaches for that line or he biases too much weight on that outside leg, it's going to take a long time for him to transition his weight over to then re-accelerate. We want to make sure that we prepare for our deceleration with good thought process of how we want to accelerate next. Another common fault on this drill is which leg truly becomes the acceleratory leg. A lot of times you'll see athletes that slip and slide on this drill, and it's usually for 2 reasons: either too wide of a base, or they're decelerating on the wrong leg and then re-accelerating on the incorrect leg as well. We want to make sure that we are decelerating off of both legs, but when we re-accelerate, it's off the lead leg. Now let's put the pieces together. It's pretty good. Boom, that's a good one. Boom. Nice, Augie. I hope this has been a little bit deeper insight to the 5-10-5 or the Pro Agility. Again, I think what you'll find, instead of using this as a quantitative measure, using it as a qualitative measure of movement capability. Paying attention to the decelerative angles that the athlete takes into a stop, and then looking at their quality of acceleration as they re-accelerate out of the dead stop position. Again, where your base of support is relative to your center of mass, and then where your weight distribution is the key components to really running an effective 5-10-5 drill. This is Loren Landow. We're getting close to that deadline period for the NSCA recertification. Make sure you go to EliteSportUniversity.com and get recertified today.